Every bit of terrific. That's my favorite. That's my favorite quote because I'm not just good. I think that that's one of the things that's so quick and simple to say in passing. How are you doing? You're doing good. But I'm every bit of terrific.
Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. I'm your host, Robin Shine. I am delighted to bring to you brothers from across the United States and from various professions talking about their life experiences, their wisdom, and a conversation that also touches on racial profiling in the United States, how pervasive it is, what the impact is. And remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. If this is your first time listening to a 365 Brothers episode, make sure you subscribe because you do not want to miss one brother's wisdom, one brother's experience, and their perspective on life in the United States. Today, we're speaking to a gentleman from Phoenix, Arizona. He works in the retail industry and specializes in the service experience. We're speaking with LaRon Hickerson. You may also know him as Ron Dwayne. Welcome, LaRon. So glad to have you.
Hey, how's it going?
Is there anything you'd like to share about yourself with the listeners to help them get to know you better?
Yeah, I actually am a native of Kentucky and product of the 80s and lived through the 90s and early 2000s. So I tend to be a little bit more old school, and it really places me in a position to really know where my, as they say, humble beginnings come from, because I'm a kid of prior technology, is what I'm trying to say. And it's like, if you're a kid like that, you have to be able to really challenge, navigate, and live off of things of a dynamic that you're used to, So you find in your everyday, we are so attached to our phones and so attached to technology, but we just don't see how we can just, be without them. So I try to at least, get away from my phone sometimes during the day to just kind of do everyday things that people should be doing, stay off of the computer, not watching TV, connecting with people. And I think sometimes we forget those things because we're definitely privileged in this modern day society. But I think it's just really important to really get back to basics sometimes and make that connection. I think we've learned that with COVID as well.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Before I took on doing 365 Brothers, I just kind of played around and I did 365 poems one year, and then I did 365 doodles. And it was always an opportunity to pull back and get away from. And it was so invigorating to do that. So I hear you.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump into the questions. What is your favorite song or movie, either now or all time, and why?
I'm going to shoot for favorite song only because I am a huge Michael Jackson fan. Like I said, kid of the 80s. MJ was everything. So I'm really a big fan of Billie Jean and Thriller and all of that. And I remember that whole movement, with MTV, and you literally would be just so attached to the television, It just would be the thing to do. My mom and I would literally like race to the TV to see the next video or to see like the next, dance step or anything that he would do. So I would say more so anything from the early 80s Michael Jackson era. Those songs are
So if
truly classic.
you're
One
talking
song?
to the DJ. Yeah, you're
Yes.
talking
The
to the DJ, and
That's right.
he's only giving you one request. What is it?
So I would say Billie Jean.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Oh
Classic,
yes.
right?
Isn't it? Dance to that. I can still see the video. I see the whole thing. He's coming down the fire.
Yes, right.
Exactly.
And
I
and
know
the
it
floor
well.
lighting up. Oh my gosh,
Oh yeah. I could do the moves right now.
so good.
This was back, for those who don't know, we talking about cassette tapes.
Oh yeah,
And I wore them out so bad they would break. And
yeah.
then I'd have to go buy another one.
Yeah. Or what you would do is that you would take like clear tape and you would
I know.
literally take the clear tape, put the tape back together again, take a pencil, put the pencil inside of the cassette tape and wind it back. I mean, good times, right? You can't beat it.
Good times. Ooh, ooh, taking me back. I love it. Okay. What about a favorite childhood memory?
It would be later in childhood. I would say it would be like at least I would have been 17 or 18. I really wanted to leave Kentucky. I really did because it was like podunk country. And I was like, man, like I want to go to the big city. I want to end up leaving Kentucky and go to Chicago and, live it up. And I remember walking down the street by myself and, praying to God, like, God, please, I know you're with me. I know that we can do this. And, if you give me this opportunity to leave, I will definitely please you and make you happy. And I remember having that moment where it was just me and him. And we were walking it and walking that journey. I think like it was at least 2 weeks later, I got my acceptance letter into Chicago, the Columbia College of Chicago for fashion. And
Mm.
you have those moments where you're with yourself and they're groundbreaking because he will come into your life and really be able to move you, but you have to be able to really have that goal and that passion and that run. You can't give up. So
Yeah.
that was one memory where I was like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make this happen. And he did make it happen. So
I kind of see it, and I don't know why. And I think it's because you said Podunk in Kentucky. So I have it that you're walking down a real small road, and there's
yeah,
just like fields on both sides.
yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Totally. It's that moment where like the sun is getting ready to set, it's summertime, the breeze is flowing, and it's literally like just nobody around. And it's literally just you in that moment looking out into the sunset, just wondering like, what's life gonna be? How's it gonna come about with the future? And it's a moment, but it actually is a moment that kind of changes your life.
Oh yeah. No, I
Yeah.
totally get that. It's a profound moment. I have a couple of those. I won't go into detail, but one of them I was on my knees.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was like, but you can hear that voice. And, like I think you and I would say hearing God, and other people might call it their higher self, they're a whisper from the universe, whatever you
Oh,
call
for
it.
sure.
Hmm.
For sure.
Um, let's talk about accomplishments. I
Okay.
asked this question in two parts. First, an accomplishment that means the most to you personally, and then an accomplishment that, when other people hear it, it gets that, oh, or wow. So let's go at the first. What's an accomplishment that means the most to you personally?
It actually involves an acquaintance of ours. It involves Moon
Wow.
because Moon actually helped me to be seen with my talent. And that was one of the things that really was a big accomplishment because I actually got recognized for my work on television. It was through his styling. So he actually utilized my fashion and put it into a television show. It was something that we did way back in the day, like 2012, 2013. And it's 2012, it's 2013. You have to think about it. There's no Instagram, right?
Uh-huh.
Facebook just came out 3 years prior. So we're still
Uh-huh.
we're still selling ourselves like, used car salesmen almost like it really is that perspective where, if you meet a person that actually is within the industry, you're definitely having to share yourself, what you do, make good connection. And Moon was just such an inspiration to me. And I think that what happened through that accomplishment was someone taking the time to really invest in me and be able to see my talent and use it. And it was seen and I got credit and it was recognized. But it also allowed for me to realize how to navigate through this industry because I met someone that actually was working on the show and I ended up getting in contact with them, Sean Riggs. And Sean was doing a movie for Amazon Prime called A Thin Line,
Mm.
and it was going to be released. And he wanted for me to supply some clothes for that movie. But this wasn't
Nice.
with Moon. This was actually myself navigating my product and what I did. So he helped me, but then it was a blessing in disguise because I ended up meeting someone else through that project. But I learned from just his connection, his wording, his guidance, how to navigate to the next step. So you never know. Like, I mean, you meet so many people definitely through this journey and they teach you, lessons to where you can be able to make the next step, learn, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I checked out a site with your designs and I was just like, So I will put a link in the show notes, folks, and you can check it out for yourselves. I'm just telling you. All right. And what about the accomplishment that gets the wow from others?
I did a television pilot for TV Guide channel called The Stylist. It was 2005, 2006. Joan and Melissa Rivers were both still on TV Guide channel. This was before they left and went to E and did Fashion Police. But they had a contract with TV Guide channel. And Melissa actually did a pilot called The Stylist. Now, mind you, TV Guide channel, they show their shows, there's like 3 or 4 shows cycling on this channel. Like, oh my gosh, once every hour, right?
Yes, I
So,
know.
oh my gosh. So they pulled a bunch of stylists in for auditions. And I was like, I'm a designer. I know how to put things together. So I had a audition in downtown LA with Melissa. And I end up like sharing with her what I do. And I end up getting to the next round. And I end up having another audition at the Renaissance Hotel in Hollywood with TV Guide producers. And I was in the TV Guide building. And I was like, man, like this is really going really well. Like they're never going to pick me. You know what I'm saying? Like you get to that point where you're like, okay, so I'm doing good, but like I'm not good enough because, it's just a mindset, I guess, sometimes. But I did end up making it through and this pilot ended up being on TV Guide channel for literally like 6 months. I won,
Whoa.
yeah, I won the actual pilot, which actually was a styling competition, and I won it. And so I won my first tear sheet. I think it was Inside TV magazine at the time. It was a TV Guide channel magazine. But I styled Laura Lee Bell. She played Christine on The Young and the Restless and I styled her, and I ended up having some great interactions with Melissa. So from there, I end up landing background in Dreamgirls because it
What?
was '05, '05, '06.
What does that mean? You end up landing background like
Oh, so I did background work for Dreamgirls. So I did
oh,
and it was all through connections that I had met at TV Guide. So I ended up getting into some movies. So I did Dreamgirls. I did a couple of commercials with the American Idols at the time.
and
Yeah,
so when you won this fashion competition,
it was on TV, and literally it was like your resume was just out there. I utilized that to get gigs. Now, mind you, as I had mentioned
nice,
before, we're not talking that we can go to our phones to look at somebody. This is '05. This is '06. You
right,
didn't have that platform. You didn't even have Facebook. So I
right.
utilized that platform of just being on TV in a continuous loop on TV Guide
Mm-hmm.
channel to book so many different off the wall gigs.
You got my wow, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then for those of us who aren't in the industry, I mean, I can guess what it means, but for those who may not want to guess, what's a tear sheet?
Okay, so a tear sheet is actually it's just your basic ad or basic look of the actual styled piece. So I literally had an article on the left page, and on the right page, it literally was the look that I put together for her. And it was great. It
Oh,
was great.
I,
And you could go and buy it in newsstands. I sent it home to my family in Kentucky, and I still have it to this day. And they actually gave me a huge photograph of that actual tear sheet that still is in my room to this day. It's about gosh, it's huge, but they literally gave it to me. But
that's
it was
nice.
yeah, it was a great experience.
Cool. So let's talk about words. What's your favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book?
I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm just gonna go for quotes. I like to say every bit of terrific. That's my favorite. That's my favorite quote because I'm not just good. I think that that's one of the things that's so quick and simple to say in passing. How are you doing? You're doing good. But I'm every bit of terrific,
Mm.
and that's just really it's a lot of blessing within that. It's a lot of positivity, and it's a lot of like you just said, like I didn't give you just a simple, well, I'm doing good, like kind of answer. I'm every bit of terrific, and that's one of the things that I had actually heard in passing. Someone had mentioned it when I was in LA, and I was like, I'm gonna hold on to that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you quickly like jot down or write down or put in your phone, and you just kind of use it for your own benefit.
I hope I see someone today and they ask me how I'm doing so I can say
Exactly
it.
right.
Please ask me so I can remember to say it because I know if I say it a couple times today, it's going to be in there. I'm
Yep.
stealing it. It's stolen. It's mine. I'm just letting you know.
Every bit of terrific. Yes,
Every bit of
exactly.
terrific. Okay, that's good. All right. Is there a person, conversation, moment, or event that stands out as either changing the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
Yeah. So I had mentioned prior, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan. I never got a chance to meet Michael, but I've met his sister, Janet, 3 times in the
Mm.
past 25 years. One moment that was really prolific and really awesome was I made a hat for one of her concerts back in 2015. And I literally was like, you know what? I'm going to make this hat. I'm going to wear it. I got good seats. My friend and I had you know, front row. We had saved up all of our money and we had literally was like, we're going to this concert. We're going to be seen. And I'm like, I'm going to make this hat and she's going to see it. And it's interesting that we actually had a moment of really good connection. Like Janet was right in front of me. And I literally was taking off the hat and gesturing to her that I was going to throw it to her. So
Hmm.
I literally take the hat and I throw it to her and she catches it.
No.
And after she catches it, I have video of this too. And after she catches it, she is in the moment where she's kind of winding down. So literally I had the moment where she's like, I want to thank the band. I want to thank the dancers. So we had good connection because the show was pretty much over.
Uh-huh.
So I threw the hat, she catches it, then she puts the hat on.
Get out of here. I knew you were going to say that, but I was like, no, she didn't. No,
Yes.
she
Then
didn't.
she puts the hat on. She does. So it's funny because we're her J tribe. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like her fan base, her J tribe. And it was a simple hat, a simple black hat. It had J tribe in huge white lettering, and it wasn't too much. It just was really simple. And at that time, I was like, man, this is just a really good moment. But after the show, people were like, where'd you get that hat? Where'd you get that hat? And I was like, I just literally made it. I didn't think anything of it. And so I had at least 10 to 12 people get back to me the next day. And then I went ahead and posted the hat. The hat actually went viral. Now we're
Get
talking
that.
20,
Get, get,
20,
get.
we're talking 2015. So it's a little a little early, but still it went viral in my perspective. And so
Yeah.
far to this day, I've sold 550 of those hats. Yeah, and I literally had a chance to see Janet again in 2018. I went to she did a concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and I went to her after party. I literally had a chance to connect with her again, and she saw that I had the hat. And it totally was like, just memories, like a really good time. She's a sweet person, very sweet, very nice. And it's one of those things. It's one of those odd things. I shipped one of the hats to her DJ. Her
Yeah.
DJ got it. Her DJ shouted me out at the
Nice.
concert. So since 2015, I've gone to a couple of other additional shows, and you usually would see fans in the stands with their J Tribe hat, and that hat literally would be from me that I've shipped out to them. So they wear it to dance rehearsals, they wear it to dance workshops, they wear it to Janet concerts. It became a little phenomenon within that whole, realm.
Community. Mm-hmm.
Community, exactly, that whole community. But
That's phenomenal.
isn't that interesting? Yeah.
And I have to say, I love your intentionality because on the one hand, wow, what a fluke. You threw it to her. But let's be clear, because what I also heard was you made sure you were in the front row.
Yeah,
And you when you made that hat, you intended to have it be seen and noticed.
exactly.
And then taking the initiative to just, because connections can just be fleeting, but it takes something to hold a connection with someone. And so I know there was an intentionality there as well. And then that all of that leads to this moment, just this one moment, and you seize it. You toss her the hat, and then it's on her head, and then now they're, something that just about anyone who's in J Tribe will have seen at least once, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Very
Yeah,
much
that's
so.
awesome. By the way,
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of concerts. I never saw Michael in concert. Love Michael, never saw him. I
Hmm.
have seen Janet in concert, and I thought I'm going to say there's only one performer that did it up. I'm going to have to be real here. That took it to the next level beyond Janet. Only one, and that was Prince.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Now I want to ask you, what is a moment or event that highlights your experience as a Black man in the United States? And that could be something that kind of signifies it, or it's just like, this is being a Black man in the United States, this moment. What is that for you?
You know what? I want to say when Obama was first, sent to office, when Obama won his presidency,
Mm.
um, that really, really was impactful. You have to think about where I am. I'm in Arizona. It's 2008. John McCain is from Arizona, and he's running up against Obama. And I'm
Oh, right.
living here in Arizona,
You're in McCain
and
territory.
I'm in McCain territory. And anybody that looks like me or anybody that comes across like me is a little bit more scrutinized at the time, because we're getting ready to turn a potential page in history that has never been seen before. I literally had someone walk me to my car the night that he won. I remember that clearly. Yeah, I did. I really did. You saw a lot of energies that actually were bubbled under. And I think that in our past, the Capitol thing comes to mind. You saw a lot of that just come out and jump out in your face. But back then, it felt like it really wasn't in your face. Like it was, but like not like what came out in the Trump era. But I think that we saw a lot of it if you were
Mhm.
here in states like Kentucky and states like Arizona. You saw it. And it
And be
was,
more, put your finger on it. What did you see exactly? How would you describe it?
I think really you saw a lot of mood shifts, a lot of propaganda. I remember driving, and I was driving home, and I remember looking into these fields that you have to come across, in Arizona. And I remember seeing a scarecrow, and the scarecrow was hanging from a noose, and it had Obama's face on it.
No.
Yeah. And I remember there was so much wordplay on his name, like no Obama or Hussein, because his middle name is
Yeah.
Hussein. The hateration was real. But from what I recall, it just wasn't as in your face as it is as of the past 4 years and 3 weeks that we've kind of experienced. It was very subtle. It really was. But I
Well,
remember
they
that
didn't have
vividly.
a permission in chief.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And it was more so that that transition was with grace because, John McCain did not win, but it was more so the fact that he did it, gracefully.
Yeah.
So, but I remember being here in Arizona when that moment hit. It was huge. It was huge. And being a Black man, having someone who is like it's like, man, they're definitely going to see you just for who you are in their eyes. It's just something that, brings hate, and it's unfortunate. So,
Yeah. Let me ask you about experiences with law enforcement. Have you
mhm.
had any that you want to share?
Yeah, for sure. I actually, and I did this on purpose, only because I'm truly proud of it. So my bumper sticker on my car is my middle name. So it reads Duwayne. It reads Dwayne.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why I did that was because I checked into the hotel one time in LA, and they said, "Do you know your license plate?" And I'm like, "Does anybody know the license plate? Like, what are you talking about?" I had to park all the way up the street. I couldn't even park in the lot because your lot was full. And they're like, "Do you know your license plate?" I'm like, "No, I don't know my license plate." And so they said, "You have to go all the way back to your car to get the license plate to check in at the hotel." I said, "This is bull. You know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to make my license plate my middle name, and it's going to be that, and it's going to be done." So by doing that, and it being Duwayne, I'm already like, going beyond commonplace of really putting something out there for who I am and who I stand for. So I started to see, when I first did it, people taking pictures of it. So I would see like someone like behind me with their camera taking a photograph of that, because I got it. No one
Yeah.
else has it because it's mine. So
Uh-huh.
it's definitely no one else with it. But then you would pick up and see road rage because of it.
What do you
Like,
mean?
you would see someone kind of pulling behind you, putting on the blinders, and like staying behind you, or kind of like pulling up and then like being on the side of you, kind of like looking at you, like, it's so funny out here in Arizona. But you don't know if it's because of who you are. You don't know if it's because of you actually putting that out there. But as far as law enforcement, I often felt that kind of brought a little bit of that into play, because I had been pulled over a couple of times and nothing was the matter from what I felt. But I thought that license plate quite often brought on a lot of attention, so much that someone actually say to me, like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "Do you know if your tags are they current?" I can't really. I'm like, "You can see my tag is clearly current." Like, I'm not trying. Are you trying to draw attention to the license plate? Like, what are you trying to do? It's just really interesting, when you give someone a little bit of difference of opinion, and you kind of put that out there, representing who you are too. They can make it so much of what it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. And you're being very polite in tone. I mean,
Yes.
so they see a license plate, they think it's somebody Black, and then it's like it just kind of brings it on.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. for sure.
You're making me wonder. When I was in college, my first car, it was, oh my God, I don't even care. It was a Toyota Tercel, and it wasn't
Right.
even a sedan. It was that ugly box hatchback. College people,
Nice.
college, okay?
Nice.
Anyway, but I had the license plate Robbie D.
Yeah.
And, now you're making me go, wait a second, was I getting,
Hmm.
because, I do remember getting stopped here and there and often and whatnot. But then again, I also had a lead foot. So who can say?
Right, right, right. But
but,
yeah,
but,
it's
hmm
interesting though, like you just said, like making that parallel, thinking
hmm
back. Yeah, it could have been. You never know.
yeah. Well, I will tell you this, because I live in LA and because of road rage and all of that, I used to get personalized plates, but now I'm just like, you know what? Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Just,
No, I hear you.
it's real.
Hmm.
Um, if the United States was a woman, whether mother, lover, child, stranger, neighbor, and she's someone with whom you could speak, what would you say to her?
To listen to her children and be kind and begin to listen to heal. I think that's the empathetic thing that we can do. I think that we're so in this zone of, like we spoke on, technology driven, and we're missing that connection. You know what I'm saying? So we're missing that piece of empathy. And I
Hmm
think that that's one of the things that we'll hopefully learn from this administration going in, but it's being able to have that sense of kindness, that sense of empathy, that sense of a lot that's been missing. But I would just have her to really listen and be empathetic to her children, who are, who's us.
Yeah. And what I like about how you've created her, there's an opportunity to fully embrace, like how you describe having a conversation and listen to your children. It's like, how about having us be fully embraced as we would fully embrace you?
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely.
What is love to you?
Love is a strong word. It really is, because nowadays with so many people, just, gosh, you feel like you're just so disposable to so many people, because everyone's looking for the next big thing or a quick fix or something. And love is just such a powerful word. I think of love, I think of the love that my grandmother had for me, that southern comfort understanding of love. Love is powerful. So whenever you get love from a friendship, a sister or brother, because family, they can be trifling too.
Mm.
So whenever you get love from anyone, you cherish that love, because love means a lot. And I've been married for about 3 years now, but my spouse and I have been together for 17 years. And
Wow.
love is real, and love is strong, and love is just making that connection and having each other's back. And that's what it means. It's just all of that platform. It's that formal way of really making that true, honest connection. And you miss that. Yeah, I mean, I miss that. I miss that amongst a lot of relationships, a lot of friendships. I miss that love, because I think as we're kind of pulling into the newer generation that we're into, we're missing that. We're missing love out of a lot of things.
Can you
And
put
it
that
all
on the court for me? Like when you say you're missing love, like the,
it shows up in the quality of work. It shows up maybe
mm,
like in music. We're like, music sucks right now. like, I mean, we're missing the love.
I
We're
got you.
missing, yeah, and we're missing a lot of love and just things that we see that we are so accustomed to. It's like, do you really love what you're doing? And it impacts your life, because whether you need the product or not, or whether you're kind of, buying into something, or you're associating yourself with someone else, like, you have to love what you do. And love is that full on 100% commitment into something. And I'm kind of throwing it around in so many different connotations, but it means a lot. It really does. It's really powerful.
You did go in a lot of different places, but it was also still very clear what you're pointing to. It's like what I hear is love is the fabric that it's almost like I would say, and how you described it, love is the fabric of the warm and fuzzy that we could have in every interaction and every relationship, whether with business people or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very much so.
I agree with you. I agree with you with it missing in music. I can't even, I can't.
Right?
I
Right?
can't.
Definitely. Right?
I listen to that old stuff and, and sometimes I will say, you know what, LaRon, sometimes I wonder, I'll watch some old show and they've got the music from back in the 20s or the 30s or something. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
go, I wonder if what they thought when people started listening to rock and roll, if they felt about rock and roll the way I feel about this new,
Right.
talking about body parts and calling
Right.
people out their name.
Right. Right? It's true
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
What is something that you've learned through your profession, training, experiences, or adventures that you believe more Black men should know and don't, knowing that whatever you say benefits everybody?
I talked about this a little bit earlier on. Communication, being able to just clearly communicate feelings, and it's okay to do so. I think that us as Black men, we just really need to be able to clearly articulate ourselves a little bit better, to be able to share how we're feeling. And it's okay, it's okay to share how you feel and what's actually on your mind. And I think that a lot of times we don't because we have to give off an image, whether we have to uphold ourselves as stronger than others because of our plight, because of all that we are up against. And that's whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether you're whatever. People need to understand who you are. So you have to make sure you clearly communicate, because there's so many people who just don't understand us as Black men. And I think that goes into play every time I go into a store and I'm being checked out. Quite often, I don't get the, hey, how are you doing? I just get nothing. I get silence. But I see the, hey, how are you doing with someone else of a different persuasion. So when I go to the counter, I always tend to make a connection with the person, like, hey, how are you doing? If I see a name badge, I'm like, hey, Lucy, how are you doing? You want to make sure you make your impression upon people so that way they make their impression and begin to understand that it's okay to communicate and learn us. You know, sometimes it takes us to be able to communicate clearly so people understand us. And it's the little things like that that make a difference. So people begin to respect you. And I think that for me, it was, the checking out at the grocery store, at the counter. It's being able to look into someone's eyes and be able to make a connection. It's those little things, but it's those ways that we can better communicate. Sometimes it's with words, sometimes it's not. But I think that as Black men, if we continue to try to communicate, I think that more people, and it's not really proving ourselves because we don't have to prove ourselves, but it's being able to let people understand us a little bit better because we're here to stay. We're here. We're here. We're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm,
But it's just
mm-hmm.
people for the understanding of who we are. I think that people just have to really have that clarity.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, in all honesty, there are times when I go to the store and, and I can look and I'll notice how, people are being greeted, the people ahead of me. And then when I get to the counter, I am automatically checking to see, did I get the same greeting,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then there are other times when it's like, maybe I notice I didn't get it. And then I just turn it on like, hey, how are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yes.
and sometimes I'll be honest with you, sometimes I do it and I'm kind of I'm kind of pissy about that I didn't get the same greeting, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, how are you? Like, I'm going to force you to say hello. I'm
Right.
dominating then. But not in a
No, I get it.
dominating way. And then what ends up happening is we end up having a conversation. I'm like, oh my God, she is so nice.
Exactly. Right. Right.
Right.
But it
And then
opens
from
up
there
that
on, it's
line
tricky.
of communication to where, that's broken. And that may end up being something now, with someone who looks like you, that person's not afraid to even make that greet. That person can make that greet because they're not afraid anymore. It
Yeah.
just takes those little simple things. So I'm all about it. I'm all about communication for sure.
I love it. That's awesome. Wow. This has been such an awesome conversation. And, I always have a great time every single time, which is fun for me. But I have a question for you.
Of
N-
course.
Now that you've participated in this conversation, what did you get for yourself personally out of having this conversation?
You know what? I thoroughly enjoyed just really being able to have a retrospect of life. And I think that's one of the things that quite oftentimes we really need to be able to sum up in brief conversations, how we're doing, how we're being able to move on. Like I had mentioned, that sense of empathy, being able to really check in. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that really gave me that moment right now to be able to think of some childhood moments and be able to think about how I'm moving forward and think about accomplishments and, how I'm beginning to make a change within society. And it's simply checking in. And I think that what you're doing is amazing because you're you're like the mama of the United States of America. You're checking on your babies. And it really gives us a voice. And I really appreciate you in this moment. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much. I got all the acknowledgement and I really appreciate everything you said. And I love that it was that moment for you where you could, reflect and yeah, just been a privilege. And I think what I love most about you, just from this brief conversation and getting to know you, is your power. It's like that intentionality, but it's got a flair, like in the sense, like I'm stuck on that example of you with Janet Jackson, and then I also
Hmm.
have in your clothing, and I hear about just being present with people, and it's like irrepressible. That's the word I'm looking for.
Awesome.
Irrepressible joy and self-expression. And thank you for being that in the world.
Thank you. I'm a guy of energy, and that energy that you give, that energy will come back to you twofold. So that's what you got to do every day, every single day. So, no, thank you.
Remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. Lastly, I just want to let you know, producing a podcast, it takes something, and I'm really grateful to have partnered with alitu.com. They make publishing easy. There's a link in the show notes for anyone who either has a podcast or is thinking about a podcast. You don't need to learn all that sound balancing and compression. Save all that. Use your time for what matters, interviewing and sharing the stories that your podcast brings. Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. Certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.